The funny thing about there's a thing about being a leader. Basically, it's just seeing what needs to be done and doing it. And if that makes me a leader, then that makes me a leader. And so, in that sense, I guess I've always been someone who can sometimes kind of like a hawk, flying above and just kind of see what needs to be done and just jumping in and do it.
Self-leadership can be lonely. It's hard to do the thing no one else wants to do, that no one else is willing to do. But you are not alone. There are others dancing through the fight and laughing as they lead. Let's find them, swap stories, and live through this together. Welcome to How I Live Through This. I'm your host, Ann Roach, and I'm really glad you're here. Today, I'm speaking with the amazing Stevie Lee. Stevie is the executive director at Horizon Community School in Marin City and the director of diversity and inclusion at Marin Horizon School in Mill Valley. He was raised in Marin City, California, and his roots there are deep. Stevie is beloved by all who meet him. He is a wonderful storyteller, a relentless advocate, and a devoted family man. Welcome, Stevie. I'm grateful you're here.
All right. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I asked you on this season, Leaders for Change, because of the leadership you show over and over again in every arena I have ever seen you in, and I think a lot of arenas I don't see you in. And I'm curious, have you always been a leader?
So the funny thing about, there's a thing about being a leader. Basically, it's just seeing what needs to be done and doing it. And if that makes me a leader, then that makes me a leader. And so in that sense, I guess I've always been someone who can sometimes kind of like a hawk, flying above and just kind of see what needs to be done and just jumping in and do it.
Yeah. Have you always had that? When did that first happen to you?
You know what? I think that started with me probably, this sound about 40 years ago. So that's, I was a youngster back then. I was a youngster.
And what was the circumstance?
It was around youth recreation and in Marin City, and actually becoming part of coaching at 19, 20 years old, coaching women's softball, and then, on to some other things. That's kind of where it started. So my leadership style has always been from a coaching point of view as well. And so I say that when I say from a coaching point of view, it's helping people to see the potential they have themselves and bringing them out. I always say, for me, it's always about the little victories, the little victories. For example, using a coaching analogy in softball, showing the techniques for catching a ground ball and then watching a girl actually catch a ground ball and being so happy and being happy for her. That's just who I am. Coach by nature.
Did you have that example in your life?
Actually, I did. I had good coaches. From Little League, Buster Grayson, who passed away recently, but I know his son is still good friends of mine and his grandkids. I had a man by the name of Russell Williams, who actually was a strong mentor to me, and he actually continues to be, even though we don't talk to each other or see each other. But he saw something in me. I was actually playing baseball for him when I was like 13, 14 years old. And so he brought out a bunch of stuff in me that I didn't know was there. So, I was fortunate. And so I used some of Russell's coaching strategy myself, the encouragement piece. Being hard, but encouraging at the same time.
Yeah. And seeing that promise in other people and helping them see it for themselves. What do you mean by seeing what needs to be done? Because so much of, as you say, leadership, seeing what needs to be done and then doing it, there's so much stuff that needs to be done that people don't want to do. So it's, you don't get a lot of the credit for that.
Let's use Horizon Community School, since you brought that up. And I'm also one of the founders of Horizon Community School. But it's also seeing a vision and what needs to be done. And it came down to looking at the public school situation in the community I grew up in, Marin City, even though I've been working in an independent school for the last 25 years. I didn't grow up in independent schools. All my children did, though. And so I'm having been in the public school and seeing what it can do for you and realizing what it wasn't doing for the community. It was kind of like, what can we do to make some changes? And so then I realized that being at Marin Horizon, our program started with 2-year-olds. Marin City did not have a 2-year-old program. And it just so happens that at the time that we were, as we were looking at that, what could we do to make changes? The community was also looking to make some changes. And so just we were happening to be in the right place at the right time. We had the right people, and I'll always say that. But the community was looking to do something different. They were in the process of planning a community life center, which was going to house senior services, a health and wellness center, youth recreation, and early childhood education. But there was already some early childhood education going on in Marin City, but there wasn't a 2-year-old program. And we started to realize that they were serving less families from Marin City. As the years went on, they were serving less and less families. And so it became apparent that there was a need for affordable childcare. And so we came up with this idea, why don't we open up a Marin Horizon, kind of like South in Marin City? And so I was actually, at that same time, I was invited to be part of that community committee. There were some people there who thought that they wanted to hear my voice and not realizing some other stuff that I've been doing for Marin City. So I kind of joined, and it became apparent in the very first meeting that we were going to be opening up a school. And what that entailed was seeing things from the top. Someone made a comment in a meeting that the start of a new early childhood program was sitting in the room. I quickly glanced around the room, and the only educators were from Marin Horizon. There were folks from other, youth serving agencies, like the Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA and the YWCA. They're good and dandy. They're not educators. And so taking advantage of that, I quickly invited members of the committee to come visit Marin Horizon. Come see this. Come see this. This is what we can put in Marin City. And I kind of went rogue. We had a plan, the Marin Horizon folks, we had a plan of who would ask what questions, because we were going to do a question and answer afterwards. And it just kind of hit me. This is seeing things from as an eagle. I just jumped out with the first question, asking a member from the Marin Community Foundation and the Barrel Buck funds. And the question was, what would it take for Marin Horizon to get a grant from Marin Community Foundation? Knowing at that time that Marin Community Foundation had never given a grant to an independent school in Marin.
Wow.
But also knowing that what we needed to do was going to take some funding through Marin Community Foundation. And what happened was the staff person smiled after the question. Of course, I was getting all kind of daggers thrown at me by my folks kind of on the slide. And I really didn't care, because there wasn't no need in asking all the other questions. This was the bottom line. Let's just get there. That's how I was.
Yeah.
And she said there were 2 things we would need to do. We would need to have collaboration with the public school system, which was Mary Jane Burke, who was the superintendent of public schools. And we'd also have to work with Community Action Marin. That was the existing agency in Marin City that was doing early childhood programming. And so it was like, I smiled too. I had relationships with both people. I'm good. I just previously, before Marin Horizon, I used to run a Boys and Girls Club in Marin City as well. I was the program director. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. And so my first interaction with both of those folks, I did something. I went on, I let them both know I am not here to collaborate with you. And that's because my definition of collaboration is different from others. And my definition of collaboration kind of looks like this. When 2 folks are collaborating, or 2 agencies are collaborating on something, and there's something that they're collaborating on, let's say it's youth recreation, and they both provide services. At some point in time, they start thinking about their services and what they're doing. And they forget about the other group. And so some animosity sometimes comes up, because here you are working on your thing, we're not working on this together. And so I wanted to partner with people, because what partners do is you work through things and you work together to solve issues. If I have A and you have B and we can make C happen, let's do that. And so that's, and in saying that, both Mary Jane Burke and Liz Burns just both kind of smiled and said, I think that's something we could do. And so I also was convincing Mary Jane Burke that we're not an independent school coming in to take over the public school. We are a private school with a public purpose. And that is to help families in Marin City get prepared for kindergarten. Because the school district at that time was actually in the process of being sued for segregation, something we knew beforehand. One of the changes that we needed to make was also helping the school district make some changes. And they were actually starting that process as well. But our goal was to get families ready so that when it was time to go off to kindergarten, families knew that they had a choice. They didn't know that before, pre-Horizon Community School. People didn't realize that they could actually apply, but they didn't know about applying to independent schools.
Yeah.
We started with a group of 2-year-olds, and each year we added a group of 2-year-olds. We were in a one classroom building. And by year 3, we had 3 classes in that building, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. So you can imagine talking about crowded. I don't even know how we did it, but we made it work. We just recently moved into some space after partnering with the school district as well, over in Marin City. And it's at the school district site. Well, we actually have, this is partnering. This is true partnering. They had 3 classrooms that were available. We needed 3 classrooms. They had playground space that was available. We needed playground space as well. We happened to have a bus. They needed bus service because they've in part of their transition, they've unified the school district. And so they have 2 campuses. One is in Sausalito, which is for K through 5. One is in Marin City for 6 through 8. We happen to have a school bus that could be available at certain times. And so as I'm partnering, we're moving into their space and they're utilizing our bus service. And of course, there's kinks that have to be worked out, that are being worked out, I should say, and there may always be. But as partners, we're working through them together.
Yeah.
We're not just saying that's your problem, that's your problem. So that's what partnership is. What do you have? What do I have? And how can we work together?
Yeah, for a common goal.
Yeah, and our initial thing was a partnership school. Exactly what we call ourselves, a Horizon Community School Partnership School. And it's basically a private school with a public purpose. And when I say that, people kind of like say, whoa, that's interesting. I mean, because we get grants from private foundations and some public foundations. We're also in the process of accessing some state funding that will come down for early childhood, and that is through the school district. We don't qualify for it, but the school district does. And the children we serve are school district children. So, it's kind of what needs to be done and get it done. And you got to remember what your vision is. Remember the vision. I sit next to me on my table, on my desk, as I keep the mission, vision, and values of Horizon Community School. I look at it 3-4 times a day to remind myself,
Can you say what they are?
Yeah, of course I can. Because it's sitting right here, I can really say it. Our mission, Horizon Community School, is an early childhood education program that advances educational equity and social justice. We leverage public and private resources with Marin City community expertise to prepare children for academic success. And what that speaks to is I'm considered someone I'm from Marin City. I know the community. I have trust already built into the community. 8 of our 10 staff members are associated with Marin City. They either live there or grew up there or still reside there. Yeah. So that's the expertise. And so we also talk with the school district and parents. We get them involved in what we're doing. So that's our mission is to keep that going. Our vision is equitable, high quality early childhood education in a model of community partnership. And that's we work with families. We do what we call parent education, but we've recently, the last couple of years, we've been dealing with trauma and helping folks understand what trauma is. And helping folks understand that as parents, we have our own trauma and how we put some of that trauma off on our kids and what we need to do to not do that. And especially during this pandemic, there's that whole nother piece of trauma. Our values are partnership, kindness, cultural emphasis, and transformative leadership. And what that transformative leadership looks like is we have high standards in our research-informed pedagogy. We develop and support passionate educators who exude the joy of learning, reflect the community we serve, and mentor others to teach our students effectively. And guess what that looks like with Horizon Community School? So we're currently, as part of our partnership with the public school district, we are working with the State of California Office of Education on what is known as a P3, which is pre-kindergarten through third grade. And we're working on math curriculum. And the lead in that happens to be Angie Evans, who's the head teacher at Horizon Community School. And so we're working with the school, K through 3 teachers. We're also working with the Community Action Marin and their early childhood folks, including Head Start. And so that's what that transformative leadership looks like.
Yeah.
And so every Friday, we have staff meetings, joint staff meetings, where the 3 agencies come together, the staff comes together.
That's amazing, Stevie. Everything you're saying is so outside of the box of the way, that, I mean, what I'm hearing you say, which just really is so sparking me, is that real leadership, true leadership, is not contained in this is the way it always was, this is how it has to get done. And it doesn't have to be, it probably shouldn't be through any normal channel, because the normal channels are not partnering, they're not transformative, you're really doing things differently.
And so we use equity and kind of you say we're doing things differently. We are paying attention to what people need and making sure they get what they need.
Yeah.
Which leads to equality. I mean, so everybody has the right to go to school, right? But if I don't have a way to get to school, if there's no school in my community, then I'm missing out on some things. So equity puts that school into your community, and then gives you some tools that help you along the way. I mean, there are the things that I don't think I've said this, but what made us actually do it was that, and I say this to funders, if education is the key to success, why not start education as soon as you can? And so one of the biggest things that happened the first year, I heard a parent say, my kid is going to school. This is a parent of a 2-year-old. My kid is going to school every day and loves it. And it actually brought a little tears to me, because it's what they didn't say. And what they didn't say was, my kid is in a child care program. My kid is in daycare. They said, my kid is in school as a 2-year-old. And that's huge. That's a huge difference for the community. And they've shared that with community people. So now that's what everyone is saying. Yeah. Marin Horizon School, Horizon Community School. We didn't say Horizon Community Child Care Center. Horizon Community School, because get school into your head as soon as possible.
Yeah.
It's different because it's happening.
Yeah.
Difference is that it's happening. This is happening so that these people can get this.
Yeah.
And now I should also say that it's not just me. It is the Marin Horizon community and the Marin City community coming together. I happen to be that person who sits and brings everybody together. I've been called the glue kind of thing, and I have to accept that, because I also have to do politics both at Marin Horizon School and in the community. Yeah, it's knowing. It also goes back to knowing what has happened in the past, and knowing what to do and what not to do. Thinking about the things that work and thinking about some new things that could work.
How do you know? How do you know when you're smiling?
I don't know how you finish the question. I'm just here. How do I know what?
It's a lot of sticking your neck out. How do you know when what you're thinking is the right way to go? How do you know how to?
I think a big part is probably comes from my faith and belief in what I'm doing. Know what it is you're trying to do, and don't lose track of it. Don't lose sight of it, even when people are trying to give you all kinds of other stuff. The goal here is to make sure that families are getting education. Okay, now this other group needs transportation. Let's figure that. That's a separate thing. Let's figure that out over here. So it's kind of like it really is staying focused on the mission and staying focused on my own personal values. I will always say this. I have always been and always will be pro Marin City. Doesn't mean I'm anti anything else. but I'm always for uplifting Marin City and folks who live in Marin City. And I've been given that gift a long time ago. And sometimes you get a gift and you don't know it, and so you don't use it. And I've been, originally one of my gifts was working with young people. I used to do, like I said, did a lot of coaching, worked in the Boys and Girls Club. But about 7 years ago, I realized I have other gifts. And so opening up Horizon Community School was using some of those other gifts, which happens to deal with working with adults. Not always the easiest thing to do. Paying attention to different personalities. I think that one of the things that I do is I'm one of those leaders who leads from the back as well. I push other people out front, and I'm always giving gentle shoves. So sometimes it's like going to the beginning of planning, knowing what you can do, knowing what your skills are. Right. And then finding other people with the skills to help. So it's grabbing from people what you need. I think that's the other thing that I do. Part of that ego, grabbing what you need. Not abusing it, but grabbing it and using it.
Well, being able to see it in other people and then seeing that you need it, grabbing it. But it also sounds like then getting out of the way, getting your ego out of the way so that can get done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I learned a long time ago, even when I was coaching. Check your ego. Pay attention to how you're feeling. Know your biases. I always try to do all those things. Know what my bias is going into this. And because I know what my bias is, I can kind of put it in check a little bit.
How did you learn that? How did you find that? Discover that?
Honestly, I think it happened probably about 9 years ago when Luis Otley was the head of school. And he sent me off to a training in NAIS, National Association of Independent Schools. They have what is known as diversity, equity, and inclusion. They have different workshops and trainings that they do. This one that I went to was actually held in Connecticut. I'd never been to Connecticut before, by the way. It was at the Taft School, which was, when it first opened, was an all-boys school preparing young white males for, I think it was Yale, Harvard. What's in Connecticut? Yale. And that's where they were going. And yes, it was President Taft. So I'm on this campus, 600-acre campus, and because it was a week long, and you're staying in the dorms, and you're with 72 other educators around the country, and that particular year it was 73 of us, and primarily because I was the 73rd person. When Luis convinced me that it was something for me to go to, because I looked at the cost and I'm thinking, I'm also coaching basketball. You know how many basketball uniforms I can buy with this and footballs and all, that's what in the forefront. But going to that workshop where we looked at power and privilege and your own identity and how to make changes in schools, that's where I first started paying attention to my bias. I think it might have been Dr. Eddie Moore, who runs the White Privilege Conference, who actually was a guest speaker that week. He may have said something that just kind of struck me as paying attention to, how I'm feeling and what my biases are. That I always share that when I'm in groups with people. Pay attention to your bias. Pay attention to how you're feeling at certain moments. Recognize those feelings. I'm fortunate and blessed that I get to do what I'm supposed to be. I think that's the other part. Everything that I'm doing, I'm supposed to be doing. And so don't tell anybody this. I really haven't worked for the last 40 years because I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Now, I get in trouble with other people, but I do recognize that what I'm doing is important for other people and the people I'm doing it with. But when you're doing what you're supposed to do, my job is easy. If that's what if you call it my job. And at the same time, I got to be a politician. I got to be a supervisor. I got to be a lot of things.
Yeah, it's simple, but it's not easy all the time.
Right. Leadership is juggling all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess,
right.
When some drop, you say, oops, I dropped that ball. I'll pick it up in a minute. I got this other stuff to get to. Now I'll pick that ball back up. That kind of happens too.
That dance, Stevie, that's the dance that I'm really intrigued by, because finding the energy to keep that dance going, like doing the shit that you really, that isn't the stuff that you're getting up for in the morning, but staying focused on your mission so that you do show up to it. Mm-hmm. That's fascinating to me. It sounds like you're saying really understanding and staying focused on your mission is what allows you to keep that energy going. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What have you discovered in your 40 years of leadership, of doing what you're supposed to be doing, that you didn't expect?
Maybe it's that I'm a mover and shaker. That might be it. I'm never going to say that again. I'm serious. That's it. That's what it is.
Yeah, you have power.
Yeah. I think that's it. So I can't say it anymore.
Yeah, thanks, Stevie. Well, you found a way to harness it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and put it to good.
What we are doing with Horizon Community School, it is something that every community in America could be doing. Yeah. Every independent school could be doing what we're doing. And I believe that.
Maybe that's next, Stevie, teaching other communities how to do this, other schools how to do this.
So one of the things that we're going to do, and we won't be doing it until we get to go back in person. One of our goals is to actually present at the National Association of Independent Schools at the People of Color Conference.
Yeah.
I mean, right now I'm actually in consultation with some folks over in Chicago who are trying to do something similar. And so I just share what I've done, you know. And when people try to pay, it's kind of like, nope, make the donation to Horizon Community.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how you pay.
Yeah.
You know.
And then replicate you like 1,000 times over.
Every community has me. There's a me in every community.
That's not possible.
And well, here's why I say that. I said that I briefly talked about being the program director for the Boys and Girls Club of Southern Marin, which was in Marin City. And we work with Marin City and Southern Marin youth. We also work with the school district, both Tam High School and Sausalito Marin City School District. We did programs on both campuses. But there's someone like me, because every community, those communities that have Boys and Girls Clubs, those communities that have rec centers, all of those communities, and they're all over, spread out in they're everywhere. There's someone like me who knows the community. And now it's about the schools reaching out to them. Unfortunately for Marin Horizon, I was already here. And so for me, I've been able to bring my Marin Horizon world to my Marin City world. Oh, that you can't beat that. You can't beat that.
Oh, you're amazing, Stevie. You're amazing. I mean, you say there's one of you in every community, but every community should be so lucky.
Luckily, I'm here.
Very, very happy you're here. Thank you so much for taking the time, for sharing your wisdom, shedding your light. I love watching you in action, and I am part of anything you do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stevie.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to How I Live Through This. I really appreciate it and certainly don't take it for granted. My goal for this podcast is to get support where it's needed. If you're so moved, please check out the organizations mentioned by my guest and consider how you might assist. Rating and reviewing How I Live Through This will also help amplify these heart-centered leaders striving to make equitable change in the world. Thanks so much.